Chapter 2. When Addison arrived at the address Sake Loomis had texted her, her heart rate instantly kicked up. Loomis had indicated this would be a strange one, and based on the location, Addison was expecting something truly bizarre. A derelict warehouse loomed ahead, a remnant of the city's industrial past. Once a brewery as recently as 20 years ago, the building was now nothing more than a carcass of rusted metal and shattered windows. A cold wind tugged at the loose strands of her hair, carrying with it the heavy scent of dust and neglect. She wrapped her thin jacket tighter around her frame to ward off the chill in the fall air. Addison started walking toward the building. 2 cop cars were parked nose to nose by the entrance. Tags of graffiti marred the walls, a chaotic tapestry of colors that spoke more of territorial disputes than artistic expression. Like most ruins in Seattle, there were tags with Nirvana and Soundgarden, though there were also a few for the artists themselves. As Addison approached the yellow crime scene tape on the other side of the police cars, a flicker of movement caught her eye to the right. She turned just in time to see a black Bureau sedan pull up. Even before it stopped in the space beside her, she could see her partner's face through the windshield. Javier Esposito parked the car and stepped out almost immediately. Before he said a word of greeting, his dark eyes scanned the scene with practiced vigilance, his jaw set in a way that told Addison he was already on high alert. Of course, Javier usually looked to be on high alert. Even when he was ordering fast food or browsing on his phone, there was an expectant look of distrust on his face. "Good morning, Javi," Addison greeted with a smile. She was fully aware that he hated being referred to by the shortened version of his name. "Shine," he replied with a nod, his stern face breaking into a brief smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "What do we have?" "Your guess is as good as mine," Addison said. "Loomis didn't have much for me. I believe the word she used was weird." "Looks like a ghost town," Javier commented, gesturing toward the warehouse. His eyes lingered on the structure, assessing its potential dangers. His eyes were one of Addison's favorite things about him. They were somehow like twin orbs of granite while also being very expressive. There were actually many things she liked about Javier, maybe too many. She'd faced facts about 2 months ago and admitted to herself that she had a crush on him. It had been a slowly evolving thing, growing slowly during their 20 months together as partners. She'd never thought much of it because she had no interest in dating or any sort of romance. Logan's death had stripped that desire right out of her. But she also knew that harboring an innocent crush may actually do her a bit of good. Maybe it would stir up that side of her again. In terms of the crush, she'd done an excellent job of hiding it. Javier was 4 years older than she was, and she was pretty sure her often biting, sarcastic personality rubbed him the wrong way. If it did, though, he'd never come out and said anything about it. "Well, let's go see what Loomis has us chasing after now," Javier said, heading for the doors of the old brewery. As they reached the crime scene tape, Javier gently lifted it a bit so Addison wouldn't have to duck so low. His old-fashioned manners and chivalry were yet another item on her list of the many things she liked about Javier Esposito. "You know," Javier said as they reached the doors, "if Loomis thought this was weird, I can't even imagine." "I know, I thought the same thing." As she reached for the door handle, the big wooden door was pushed open from the inside. It groaned with the rust and dust of age. A cop stood on the other side, a heavy-set woman who looked a training session or 2 away from making her UFC debut. The nameplate over her left breast read, "Kraus." "You the feds?" she asked. "We are indeed," Addison said, showing her badge. There were times when she still relished this action, but others when it felt pretentious. This occurrence felt a bit more on the pretentious side. "Good. We don't know what to make of this." "What have we got?" Javier asked. "A single body. Victim's name is Emily Torres. And before you ask, no, I can't explain what happened here. You'll need to see it for yourselves." "Emily Torres," Addison repeated as if inspecting the word. Why did that sound so familiar? She racked her brain, but no concrete memory surfaced, a fleeting shadow at the edge of her mind. The hell of it was that she wasn't especially good with names. So why was this one familiar to her? "Sounds like you've heard of her," Javier observed, catching the puzzled look that crossed her face. Maybe, she said. I can't place it, but it's there. Nagging. Maybe the scene will jog your memory, he said, his tone carrying a note of dark humor that didn't quite mask his concern. Lead the way, Officer Kraus, Addison prompted. Kraus did just that, leading them deeper into the belly of the warehouse. There was nothing to see at first other than an old, scarred floor and the occasional bit of rotten wood or steel. But when Addison realized that Kraus was leading them to a stairway at the far left corner of the building, she started to grow apprehensive. The stairway only went a single way, down. As they stepped onto the first stair and started down, the change in acoustics seemed to promise darker things. The smell of rust and decay wafted up, the air stagnant and heavy with the scent of something else. Old sawdust, perhaps, or rotting cardboard. The staircase creaked underfoot as Kraus guided Addison and Javier into the cavernous sublevel of the abandoned building. The deeper they traveled, the darker it became. Addison could see jostling lights down below, prompting her to take out her small maglite, which she kept in her belt beside her holstered Glock. Javier did the same, and by the time they reached the bottom of the stairs, it became evident that they wouldn't have much need of them. One of the cops on the scene had set up halogen lamps on the floor, pointing directly to the large open space in front of them. Yikes, Addison breathed. The halogen lamps revealed a small labyrinth constructed from old reinforced wooden pallets. They had been stood on their sides and doubled with metal rods at the backs, each wall standing roughly 10 feet high. The wood on the pallets presented a variety of age and time. Some was fairly new, while most of it was splintered and gray with age, casting grotesque shadows that danced and merged with the darkness. Addison's pulse quickened as she stepped forward. I suppose we go into that thing? She said. I've already been in, Kraus said. Follow me. Kraus entered, followed by Javier and then Addison. She instantly felt confined, like a mouse that had just been placed inside a trap that may or may not have a dried lump of cheese at the end. The corridors were barely wide enough to stretch out her arms, enforcing a single-file march into the bowels of the odd structure. Her breath came a little faster, resonating in her chest with a dreadful awareness of the confinement around her. Any sense of direction was lost within these makeshift walls. Feels like the walls are closing in, doesn't it? Javier's voice cut through her thoughts, steady but not devoid of his own unease. I have no idea what you mean, she said dryly. Then, looking to Kraus, she asked, How in God's name did anyone find this? An anonymous call, Kraus said. We think it was probably a drug dealer or addict sneaking in and coming across it. They refused to stay on the scene when asked to stay put. And they found the body? Javier asked. Yeah. Has anyone managed to find the caller and speak to them? Addison asked, already wondering if the caller actually might be the devious mind behind the structure. No, but we have a team working on that as we speak. Kraus took a left, then 2 rights, the pallets going on and on. Addison wondered how long it had taken to build the monstrosity. Beyond that, she wondered what sort of warped and twisted mind would have even thought up something like this. They turned another corner and came to the end, not of the maze, but of their search. Emily Torres lay at the center of a small clearing within the maze. Kraus halted and even took a step back, giving them space as Addison knelt beside the body. The first thing she noticed was the state of decomposition. It wasn't advanced, but it was enough to suggest that Emily's body had been here for at least 2 days. Rigor mortis had set in, and the pale hue of her skin told a very sad story. From a cursory glance, there appeared to be no overt signs of violence. No bruises that screamed of a struggle, no lacerations to suggest a blade, no bullet wounds. The only wound at all that Addison could see was a scrape at the end of Emily's nose, likely from colliding with one of the wooden walls. Nothing obvious, that's for sure, Addison said. She looked at the victim's head, looking for any sign of blunt force trauma. There was a bump that stood out, but she wasn't sure if it would have been a whack hard enough to kill her. Any chance she was dead before she got here? Javier asked. Addison shook her head. The scabbing on the nose is about 2 days old, not quite formed over yet. And based on the state of the body, I think she's been dead for 2 days. What she thought but didn't say was that she didn't see why Emily Torres would be in the middle of this maze if she'd been dead when she arrived. If someone had put her here, they'd had a reason. They'd wanted to torment her. "A talk screen will give us some answers," Addison said, her voice measured despite the storm of thoughts in her head. "But I'm wondering—" She glanced up at Javier, the beam from his flashlight catching a glint of sadness in his eyes. "Fearmonger?" Javier asked. "Yes." Kraus stepped forward with an inquisitive glance. "You mean that warped killer we still can't find?" "The very same," Addison said. She paused, giving her mind a moment to digest the name. Her mind flickered through the catalog of horrors the killer known as Fearmonger had left in his wake over the past 4 months or so. A killer making his way through the city as if he had no fear at all of being caught. He used fear as his means of slaughter, the coroner's reports indicating that at least 3 of his 5 victims had died of a heart attack. Blood work showing elevated sensations of fear in their final moments. "Has he ever used a maze before?" Kraus asked. "No, but please, I'm only speculating here. Think about this woman, being trapped in here. It's conceivable she died from the terror alone. She has no flashlight. It was likely pitch black. And she was here for a while, I'd say." Kraus nodded, looking slightly deflated as she walked away. Her departure was an unspoken cue, giving the agents a bit of privacy. Javier took a step closer to Addison, his voice low and urgent, mirroring the weight of their grim surroundings. "Addison?" he began cautiously. "You really think this could be another attack from Fearmonger?" "I don't know," she finally answered honestly. "If it is, then he's changed his pattern. This is more intricate, more sadistic." Javier frowned, the lines on his forehead deepening. He respected her input above all others when it came to matters of death. Her ability to read the silent stories told by the deceased was unparalleled. She knew this about him, and though it was a rather odd way to gain respect, she was fine with it. After all, she respected him for so much more. Namely his several years of experience over her and his cold and calculated expertise in quickly analyzing crime scenes. "More complicated how?" Javier prodded. "For starters, Fearmonger's victims were found in places familiar to them, safe places." She gestured to the oppressive wooden labyrinth around them. "This maze, it's a new level of psychological torture. It's personal in a way we haven't seen from him. Maybe it's not him. I just think it's something we have to consider based on how screwed up this is." A shiver crawled up her spine as she understood what this might mean. It wasn't bad enough that they had a monster like Fearmonger loose in the city. Now there appeared to be another sadistic mind at work. And if this was the work of Fearmonger, then he was getting a lot more demented in his approach. The thought sent echoes of unease ricocheting through her mind, unsettling her already frayed nerves. "Until we get a coroner's report, everything's speculation," she continued, her voice steadier than she felt. She straightened up, stepping away from the body and brushing the dirt from her knees, a futile attempt at regaining composure. "I need to do some digging. Emily Torres. Her name rings a bell and I can't place it. What about you?" He shook his head. "I don't think I know it. Are you talking something from personal memory or case files?" "Can't be sure, but it feels important." Her brows knitted together as she delved into the recesses of her memory. There was something there, a whisper of recognition that tantalized her, begging to be unearthed. "Are you okay to get out of here?" she asked. "Maybe we can look through the Fearmonger files and hunt down some connections. Maybe that's where I'm recalling her name from." "Yeah, just give me a few minutes to look the place over more closely." "Sure thing." As they moved further around the maze, the darkness seemed to press in on them with a renewed intensity, as if reluctant to release them. For Addison, each step felt heavier, and her flashlight started to feel like a weapon against the darkness rather than a way to peer into it. As she gave Javier his space and time to look around, Addison realized that she was starting to feel a bit closed in, a bit claustrophobic. And if she was feeling that way now with the flashlight, Javier, and cops on the scene, her heart broke when she considered what it must have been like for Emily Torres.